Discover prototypical track and turnouts with the Roadmaster series from Oak Hill Model Railroad Track Supply. Proudly made in the United States, Oak Hill's handcrafted turnouts provide unparalleled detail and accuracy, giving your layout museum-quality track work at an affordable price. Whether fully built or in easy-to-assemble kit form, Roadmaster provides all the details of real track. Looking for a custom piece of track work? Oak Hill can help with custom turnouts, diamonds, crossings, and more. Check out all of their offerings on their website, ohrtracksupply.com. Find out how simple and affordable it is to get your model railroad product or service in front of our growing and amazingly engaged audience. Email us at aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Around the Layout, where model railroaders come to tell their story. My name is Ray Arnott. So glad you could join us. Coming to us from the Colorado Model Railroad Museum in Greeley, Colorado, Michelle Kempema. Michelle, good to see you again.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks for having me on. Always love to be on Around the Layout.
I've been looking forward to seeing you. It's been a little while. When's the last time we saw each other? Was Amherst?
Amherst, yeah.
In January. So it's been a little bit, but you've been quite busy. You've got the museum stuff that you're up to, which is just seemingly a load of projects that come out of the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. And then we're actually here tonight to talk about a new event that you'll be putting on in conjunction with the museum. So excited to talk about what's going to be the Colorado Rail Proto Meet out in Greeley. So glad to have you on board to talk about that.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me come on to talk about it. It has been a learning experience for me to do an RPM, because when I was first asked about it, I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, let me ask you about that. Well, let's talk about what's been going on at the Colorado Model Railroad Museum. We need to get caught up on that. So tell us what's new.
Oh my gosh, so much. We have a virtual railfan camera that went live with our 15th anniversary in May. 15 years that we've been there. And I've been there all 15 of them. Minus 1 week. I actually came in a week after the grand opening.
So you missed the grand opening, but you were there for
1 week. Yeah. And I've been there ever since. So we celebrated our 15th anniversary in May, and we kicked it off by having the first virtual railfan over a model railroad. So you can watch us live.
Well, that's awesome. And it rolled out in phases. What phase is it at now?
We're still trying to get it where we can actually turn it off at night, but they haven't figured out how to because those cameras roll 24/7. So to actually have an on-off time, we need some kind of screen or something. And I think everybody's just busy because it's summer. So, but you can watch it in the dark. You might see our ghost Frank. That's maybe somebody will get a Frank sighting or something. So
we'll have to watch for Frank and see if he's wandering around. But that's really cool. And it's a neat opportunity for folks. I mean, virtual railfan and its ability to share, these awesome locations in the prototype, but now be able to do a virtual visit to your museum is really a cool thing.
And they did it as a sponsorship for us. And so even if it ever goes behind a paywall on the actual website, it will always be free on our website. So we have actually a tab on the cmrm.org website where you can always watch ours for free. And so it was a nice sponsorship on their part.
Awesome. We'll be sure to provide the link in the show notes as well. So check for that, and we'll be able to check that out. And open pretty soon to send ATLP 2022, our HO touring boxcar, and it'd be definitely cool to see that on the virtual rail.
And then we'll find it. And I'm learning how to use the joystick so we can follow. Right now, the camera does a pan pattern, but they're training about 6 of us. And if anybody remotely would love to be trained, we would love to have you. So we can follow the trains.
Oh, cool.
So we can move the camera ourselves. So we're getting there.
Now, is it do they give you like a joystick controller or?
They did. Yeah. So on site, we have a joystick controller that we hook to a laptop so we can set up above the layout in our break room and see the trains, and we can follow them. So we can control the camera. You can do it with a mouse, but it's just a little bit harder to do it remotely. So I'm just learning. I'm the last one because I've been busy and traveling. Everybody else is like, this is so fun. So
Learning those real smooth panning motions and everything with the
Yeah.
joystick. That's really cool. So
What you don't see on it, though, is the rest of the museum. You see about half the layout. You see the mezzanine area, so that if you want to come with a sign, that's where you're going to be seen. But we have so many kids and so many things going on around the edges that we kind of screened all that out. So it's a different experience. We're full of summer camp right now. We've had summer camp every week of summer.
wow. Tell us about that, because I know when we talked last time, you were talking about these summer camps and the opportunities that you give to kids for, kind of that, we were talking STEM or STEAM and in the elements you talk about the camp this year.
Yeah, well, Madison Castle's our youth director, and she's just amazing. And she can control a room of preschoolers better than anyone I've ever seen. Like, keep their attention and get them to catch a bubble or whatever she's doing. I'm just always amazed. Yeah. So we have, because we're space constrained, summer camp is from 8 to 10 on the weekdays. Yep. During the week. And so we do a week of preschool and a week of 6 to 12 and a week of preschool. And so she's rotating them through summer. So this week is 6 to 12 and next week will be our last preschool. They do all kinds of activities. Tomorrow is the dinosaur dig. So they find fossils in a dinosaur. We have this big trough and we put fossils in it and they have to dig it all out. It's super fun. So we do all kinds of crazy things and very much train related things, but also STEM related things, STEAM related things. So they do art. They were painting yesterday, music. It's a whole lot of stuff. We've had repeat attenders.
Yeah, that's good.
Kids that want to come back. Yeah. And this week, one of our kids, he came last year, came again this year, did a lemonade stand to raise the $75 to sponsor another kid because he has so much fun.
Wow.
I thought that was incredibly cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. What a contribution. After the week I've had, I'm just wondering what the age cutoff is for this camp. Who can attend?
Probably sneaky in there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just talking about that with something else. I just seemingly keep missing those age cutoffs. I keep forgetting, that
I wanted to paint too. It looked really fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's great. You got all these things going on, but here's something that maybe fit better in my age bracket. You've decided to hold an RPM right across the street. And prior to us starting recording here tonight, you gave me a tour of this awesome facility that you're going to have it in. And we'll get to that in a second. But with all of this stuff going on, and this is just, speaks to your character that you just love to have projects going on all the time, right?
I know.
Busier than a 1-hour paper hanger kind of thing. But you've got now you're going into this idea of holding an RPM. Where did that idea get born? Where did you say, you know what, we need an RPM here in Colorado?
It wasn't me. It was two different people in the same week said, Michelle, have you ever thought about hosting an RPM? And my first person, I was like, what's an RPM? So I learned what it is. And I kind of researched it online and I looked at a lot of photos of RPMs around the country. And I did a lot of thinking and it took me a week. I said no, to be honest. The first thing I said was, no, I don't have time for that. Well, you do it.
You at least tried. You tried.
I tried to say no. I said no for an entire week. Yeah. And then I started thinking about it. And there's a little more to the story of what's going on at the museum at the same time here. So we are in the process of looking at our needs for expansion for programs. And if we've been working on this for a long time, I mean, I've literally been looking at growing our land since day one, really. But we had some donors come to us and give us like that first $1 million to do the planning for expansion. So I've been meeting with architects and we're really into this. And I'm thinking about, if you're a visitor to our museum, it's great to be a visitor, but what about the modelers? What about the modelers who come? What about our local modelers? How do they become part of what we do? Because what we have right now is a gigantic, fantastic, and wonderful layout that you operate on. And it's not even intensive ops. We actually just started, another program we just started in this spring is intensive operations on Friday nights closed to the public. Because what we do is we have a beautiful setting for running trains over a mountain and, through the countryside with only 3 big yards. And we don't even have a classification yard because this short line wouldn't have had that.
Mhm.
And so we're missing a couple of types of modelers. The first ones we were missing were the intensive ops. So we tried to solve that problem with our Friday night ops once a month. And we invited some different NMRA groups and clubs to come and try this out. And we actually were part of Rocky Ops. And we had 16 operators who actually spent about 4 hours just doing switching.
Amazing.
And it was fun. It was fun. And David always intended that. Dave's the builder of our layout. He had always intended for that to happen, but we just never got there. We just sort of run beautiful trains in circles on Saturdays sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So we were trying to cater a little more to that. And then I thought, well, the people who built this layout, where are they? Where's the people who build structures? Where's the modelers who like scenery?
Yeah.
And who like to build custom rail cars? They're not the operators sometimes, right? This is a whole nother set of modelers. And I got to thinking about how there are going to Rocky Apps. I went to a lot of home layouts I'd never been to. I bet I only knew 50% of the people in my own area at Rocky Apps.
Wow.
And I thought, these guys are out here and some of them know each other and not all of them even knew each other.
Right.
Right. So there's this huge piece that's missing in my region. And so this, I'm thinking of my homeboys here, my home club, my home people.
Yeah, right.
I don't know them. And so to be honest, at the end of my week of, I don't want to do the work of another convention thing, I thought, I really want to know these people. And so I went, okay, we got to do an RPM. So I went to my board and I said, when Caboose Hobbies closed in 2015, the big one,
that
had space where people would gather and meet each other, we lost all of that connection, the actual physical know each other connection. And I called up John Garberg and I said, John, your train show's just too big. He runs the Rocky Mountain Train Show.
Right.
It's fantastic and it's 10,000 people and we don't meet each other there.
Right. Right. And well, we were talking about that before the show, the different types of events. And you mentioned the three, right? So you have train shows like the Rocky Mountain Train Show, where you have a lot of vendors. You have a lot of people bringing boxes of stuff to sell. I
feel like that's where we meet innovation in the hobby.
Right.
That's where we meet innovation in the hobby.
Yes, for sure. I think that it's the train show, but it's also like, even for like, I'm thinking bigger like Amherst and even Rocky Mountain Train Show. And you guys are really becoming, the Western version of that with the Rocky Mountain Train Show. It's like train show, but also trade show. Like, these vendors are meeting vendors and there's, the next big idea may be brewing between somebody at those shows. So those are really that. And then you also mix in, that's a great place to bring the family and they see the layouts and that kind of thing.
The public meets the hobby there.
Right. Exactly.
So.
And then you have a convention, which is, a gathering like the NMRA convention that we saw each other in Texas. And you have prototype stuff going on. You have the more clinic driven. Then you have the RPM, and we talked about that in the beginning. Like, what is an RPM? And
like what is it? And I learned that an RPM is a very intense and small group kind of thing. It's like more like a family reunion than a giant trade show. And as I looked at them, I realized that it's about supporting each other in this hobby and appreciating the work of others. So I went to an RPM because I thought I better go see one.
Right.
So the one that fit in my schedule was Valley Forge.
Okay.
So I went to the Valley Forge RPM back in March, and I went in totally having no clue what to expect. And I thought it was all about the showroom. I really honestly thought that's at this point, I'm like, oh, the RPM's about showing off your work. We put them on the tables. And my very first question was, how do I assign table space? And the answer I was given was, you don't, they figure it out. And I went, modelers figure this out? They just like, it's okay. They just make space for each other and they're kind. And they're like, oh yeah, they all get along.
One less thing to manage too. This is perfect. Yeah.
This is perfect. So I walked in thinking it was going to be all about the modeling room, which was cool. And everybody went in there and I participated. I took something to put on the table because I wanted to be a participant. So I painted the little mural on an N-scale wall. I painted our mural in N-scale. and I wanted to hand paint it. So I did it. So I put it on the table.
Nice.
And it was neat to see all the different styles of things. But what I got out of that RPM, it was very clinic heavy. They had, I think, 4 clinic rooms, so you had lots of choices. But every clinic that I went into was pretty much about somebody's home layout. And the crowd was saying, where are you at on your layout, Bob? Oh, Darren, I was so excited to see the progress you've made since last year on your layout. And they all knew each other and they knew what they were working on. And they had this incredible fellowship among them. And they were really excited to see each other's work. So a lot of the presentations were just my layout.
Yeah. And another thing, that camaraderie that builds, and I think what also helps that camaraderie, my experience with RPMs, is the fact that you can display without there's no judging. It's you just
Right.
go see what's on the
Just go
tables,
see it.
right?
Yeah,
So it takes that pressure off of, is mine better than yours or what? Instead, it's here's mine, or here's mine half done. I'm stuck and struggling. Oh, here's somebody who's completed it. We have a conversation that helps me, and then they enjoy because they get to share
Right.
that knowledge.
And you can take a work in progress, which I did. My building was flat on a piece of paper. My walls were not glued together yet.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I laid it down and I put a photograph and I put like what it is and explained it on a piece of paper. And I was excited, and I actually got like nice comments from people. I didn't feel there was any judging. I loved that there was a vendor room. So there was a little bit of shopping. It was pretty specific. And I loved the clinics. And the whole thing was just people excited to be there to focus on their love of what they do in the hobby.
I think what happens, and this is, what my observation as well is, I always like to know that there's like-minded people like me out there that are weird in a very good way, right? That we're just laser focused on these things that you think are odd, but then you start talking to other folks and they're just as much, or maybe even sometimes more into that little thing that you're drilled into, whether it be, something historical or something exact prototype match, making sure everything is perfect and it doesn't mean you have to be the most perfect modeler, but you're into those kinds of details and things and knowledge about the hobby or about the prototype, that there's like-minded people. They're my people, they're just like me. Yeah. And that's part of that camaraderie you'd speak of.
And I like that it's a small number of people. I know I do understand there's different styles of RPMs. There's the clinic heavy, there's the model heavy, there's the huge ones like that's going to happen in St. Louis every year. Well, happens every year in St. Louis, right? That one's, right. I hear it's like 800 people. That's a train show.
It's big. Yeah.
But they're just different styles. And the one I'm looking for is just, I want to meet people. And so I chose a venue that I think is designed for conversations.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that because you showed me photos and I'm blown away, and I'm going to try to find a way to share those in the show notes because it's going to be a pretty amazing facility. Tell us about it, Michelle.
Yeah, so I've known about this facility for a long time, and I was there when they opened it. They're about 15 years old also. So this building is kind of catty corner from the museum. So it's a block west and north in the middle of the city block. So it's right there. It's called Zoe's Cafe or Zoe's Coffee Shop. It's actually owned by Christ Community Church. They bought it. It's been many things. It was originally a car dealership. So that's why they have names like the Bel Air, and the showroom was really the car showroom. Yeah. And that's where we're going to show the models in the showroom. So right. I'm excited about that.
Well, it's funny. I'll say when you first said Zoe's Cafe, and I'm reading it here, I'm thinking of this quaint little coffee shop in downtown Greeley. Maybe, you're shoulder to shoulder waiting on your latte, and It is anything but that. And as you tell us more, it's actually an event center because it was a car dealership place. Then it became a nightclub. It was a country western bar for a while called the Fleetwood. Yep. And then it was abandoned kind of, and then the church bought it and has done a beautiful job renovating it. This church supports a mission in South America, and it's a coffee growing
business, and they employ people in South America. And so they wanted to open a coffee shop. So that's why it turned into a coffee shop. And they do have their coffees direct from their mission.
Wow.
So it's really good coffee, and they grind it right there. They ship it in. It's a cool story. The backstory of this place is really neat. But the coffee shop itself seats about 100 people. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, big coffee shop. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really cool because they've kept all the brick and the beams from when it was originally built in probably the 30s, I'm guessing 1920s, 30s. And then we have the big room that has the stage, which we'll grow into. We're not even using that room this year. And then we have the showroom where we'll have the models and the vendors. And then we have a clinic room that sets off to the side called Room 101. And so it's going to be cozy, but roomy. Like, we have space, but we have lots of seating. And so if you look up Zoe's Cafe and Event Center in Greeley, just Google it. We're all good at Googling, right? You'll find it and look at the pictures. It's a cool place.
Yeah, we'll definitely, and you can Google it, or we'll share links in the show notes as well, so you can check those out. Yeah, I bet you it smells amazing in there. Thinking about them grinding the coffee beans. Yeah, so not only are you gonna have a great atmosphere, it's gonna smell really good if you love coffee.
You'll love it. So we'll see. And the point of this year, so back to when this started really quick, I went to my board of directors, who there's only 2 modelers on my board. The rest are all kind of fundraisers and community members. And I talked about the importance of supporting all of the aspects of the hobby and all the styles of modelers. And I said, in 2025, I want to do a 2-day RPM in September. And so I'm going to start working on it now. So I have a year and a half to put it together and yada, yada. And the board had a little conversation, and they said, no, you need to do it. Oh, no, I said 2026. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah.
2026. And they're like, no, you need to do it this year in 2024. And I looked at them and they're like, just figure it out. It's important. This needs to happen. They're like, if we're going to be the Museum of Modeling, we need to support all aspects of the hobby. And every single board member is absolutely adamant that we're a museum about modeling, and we need to do these things. So this is a program they want to do, not just to have an RPM. This is about supporting these kind of modelers. And so I had to scramble. And so we have a 1-day event this year. I'm calling it our kickoff event for next year's 2-day RPM.
Right.
And I decided that if I feed them, they'll stay and talk to me. And so I said, we're going to go to the museum for dinner after this thing so we can talk about how it went. I'd love to get feedback from everybody in the moment. Did we like the venue? Is this where we want to be? How, and what worked and what didn't, and just involve the modelers. And so typically when I have get-togethers, I'm super cheap because we're small budget, and you get Little Caesars pizza, right? So I have a committee, and I should say that I pulled together a committee of experts early on. After the board said do it, I panicked and went, I don't know what I'm doing. So Colorado is full of manufacturers for the hobby.
Right.
So I emailed all of them and said, could you get on a Zoom with me? I want to talk to you about an RPM. So I had Soundtracks on there, and Intermountain, and San Juan Models, Doug Junda, because he's really good at this. And I have McCarville Studios, and I invited Jason Jensen Trains, who's in Greeley, and and just a slew, Rich Gibson, and a bunch of the modelers that I know do this stuff. I had like 14 people on there.
How excited were they to hear something right in their backyard they don't have to travel to?
I pitched it and I said, I just want to meet people. And they all went, we'll help you, Michelle. You really need to do this.
That's awesome. Awesome.
So they were amazing. And so I do have this support group of people helping me do this and making sure we get all the bases covered. So
yeah, that's amazing. Awesome opportunity for them. Again, an event that they don't have to travel that far. It's right in their hometown. And then eventually they can grow. I can just imagine. I'm trying to put ideas in their head or force them into anything. But now it gives opportunity for them to do special events wrapped around this RPM as well. So that's going to be a great opportunity for a lot of them.
My first hurdle was Greeley, right? They're like, well, we should do it in Denver. It's so much easier. Well, I'm like, well, Greeley's unique, and we're here, and this is the museum's program, so
Yeah.
it has to be in Greeley.
Yeah.
And we actually can grow in Greeley. Zoe's is the smallest of 3 venues that I could use. So we can keep it in Greeley and grow to the size of actually bigger than the St. Louis RPM. Our event center is way bigger than Collinsville. But we have an intermediate facility right downtown that would work also. And we have a hotel convention center right next to that.
Yeah.
So we can always grow into the hotel piece. I am not really including a hotel piece in this year because I figure it's my locals. But I have more out of town people registered right now than local people. But whatever.
Yep. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, I forgot my funny story. This is me. I always lose my train of thought.
No,
My funny story was that group of guys all knows me really well. And when I said I was going to have dinner, they're like, is this going to be crappy pizza like usual? and I have Iowa Skilled Engineering on there. And if you've ever met Nathan and Michael, they're so funny. And they said, Michelle, we'll put some money to it if we could have barbecue.
There you go.
And so the idea of dinner being sponsored was born. So Iowa Skilled Engineering and Soundtracks have both stepped up to feed us a delicious barbecue dinner. So for your $20 registration fee, not only do you get the RPM all day, you get dinner.
Are you kidding? For $20, you're going to feed them dinner too?
And you get a dinner that would cost you more than $20 a person.
Oh, it's a no-brainer. Holy mackerel. I
know.
I'm calling Lonnie Bathurst. Yeah, he's got a step saying, I don't get him a free dinner from. No, that's
now, this
awesome.
won't happen every year, but for our kickoff year, because we want to talk to everybody.
That's awesome.
They agreed to sponsor that. And so, thank you, Soundtracks, and thank you, Iowa Skilled Engineering, for stepping up and feeding us. And then I have San Juan Models and Spring Creek Model Trains are both also sponsoring the day. And Iowa Skilled Engineering has given us lanyards. Like, these guys are just hugely supportive in making this happen.
Yeah.
So
that is so awesome. Wow. You leave it to you. I mean, you do such a great job with coordinating these events and making things happen. And I can hear kind of like a hesitation a little bit, like you probably had that hesitation, but you got to know it's going to work and it's going to be a great thing. I mean,
I worry about things. Today I was there today, and I was standing in the clinic room, and I'm like, is it too light in here? These blinds aren't dark enough, and so I worry about everything. So until it's done once and everybody's okay, I will worry, but I'm excited. I'm excited to meet people because I need to meet the modelers. So.
Yeah, for sure. And so you're going to have this. You said you described Zoe's Cafe and Event Center. It's about a block, you said, away from the museum. So are you going to have things going on at the museum as well?
I think so. Although you're going to get free admission to the museum all day. So you can go back and forth. Okay. I think like the Proto Throttle, I think we'll actually have it operating on our layout in a yard all day that you can go try it out. So it's kind of like a clinic going on at the same time over at the museum. Yeah. And, so that you can go back and forth and it's real easy. And there's parking everywhere. We got tons of parking. So that's good. And and then have dinner at the museum in the evening. So if you don't get over there during the day, you'll get to go in the evening. And we're also going to do a Friday night. I talked about those intense op sessions. Yep. We're going to open it up for a Friday night op session for people if they want to come in. So especially if you're coming from out of town and you want to do that. And then we're going to have layout tours on Sunday. And we're promoting the Estes Park train show had to move to our weekend. So they're also open on Sundays. So we're going to have a couple layouts open between us and that train show. So we can give you your little driving route and you can have a great Sunday too.
Awesome. And how far is that train show from where you're at?
It's about an hour drive from Greeley to the door of the train show in Estes Park.
Okay, so that's not bad. Yeah. It's scenic Colorado, so it isn't too bad to drive, right?
So RPM Saturday, train show Sunday. I mean, really, and it's in Rocky Mountain National Park, so it's beautiful up there. Yeah. So if you're an out of town person, you'll love it. And we have some great layouts that I think are going to be open on the way there. You could see David Stewart's or John Parker's. I think are both going to be open for us.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it'll be amazing.
Have you started to book clinics for this yet?
They're done. The clinics are done. And I have them. And unfortunately, I only have one clinic room. And that was my original panic was, oh my God, I had to have 6 clinic rooms. Yeah. But I guess it's okay to just have one this year. So we're okay.
I tell you, I think sometimes less is more. And it definitely helps, at least from my experience. You don't have to choose between 6. You get to pick 2. It's like you feel bad that you're missing 4 by going to 1 or 5 and going to 1. But now it's like 1. You're not going to miss anything. Yeah. You can just go. And if you eventually grow it to 2, it's either this or that. And that sometimes feels a lot better than saying, oh man, I'd really love to go to this one, but then try to make a choice between 6. Yeah.
And when we grow, we can have 2 clinic rooms when we grow. We just didn't rent all of it because every room is more expensive, right?
Right.
So our clinics, Rich Gibson's going to talk about his main central layout. So that's kind of our look at my cool layout, which is really cool. I operated on it and I actually dropped a couple cars in his river. I spilled the crabs back into the ocean. It was
you returned them to back.
I released them back to their home. He was laughing because his layout's one of those that things like that don't happen only when I'm there. Richard Virgin is doing a clinic that I encouraged him to do because his model railroad is built from the financial records of the railroad in 1938.
Wow.
And so he's built it. He took the financial records and looked at what products they had, and that's how he's built his layout. I thought it was fascinating.
Oh, that will be fascinating. Yeah, there's using history and research to, that's phenomenal.
Right. I thought it was great. So he's doing that one. George is going to do a Blue Nami and prototype operations. And George always throws, at RPMs, he throws in some real specific things, which are fun. And then we have an interesting thing. John Szymanski is going to do the first presentation on that steam proto throttle that's been around the world, a big project many people are working on.
Yeah.
He's going to give an update on it.
Awesome.
So we thought that would be interesting. Very cool. Then one of our museum volunteers, Bob Pilk, is going to, his is called Business Cars on a Budget, and he custom scratch builds different styles of passenger and business cars. Based on the prototype. And he has a lot of Union Pacific ones that he's done. So I thought that was kind of fun and more like car-based. So
yeah, that's great.
I thought it was a good list of clinics.
Oh, that's an awesome list of clinics. Well, you're off to a running start, that's for sure. And then, I'm thinking, the layout tours afterwards, and you got a lot of great layouts in that area. Yeah. And
we have hands-on stations. We have 4 different hands-on stations, and they're in the coffee shop. Okay. So we have a guy named Scott Chartier. He's local. He has a degree in art and history, doctorates in both. He's a G-scale modeler, but he's also a World War II modeler, and he does amazing dioramas, military. And so I'm giving him an entire little room to show some of that off. And he's going to talk about weathering techniques that go from his G-scale cars to his military modeling.
Yeah. A lot of military modeling influence in our hobby for sure. Yeah. There's a lot to learn from them for sure. Yeah.
And so I think that'll be good. We have a guy named Patrick Bopp who comes from Luxembourg, and he does billboards, custom billboards. And we have some on our layout from him, but he happens to be coming to the States anyway. And he said he would love to do a hands-on clinic on how he does those.
Awesome.
So we have that. And then we have Butch Eiler. Many people might know him. Everybody knows
Butch
right?
very well. Butch is an amazing weathering guy. Absolutely amazing.
He's got a whole weathering area. He's got this huge table in the coffee shop to himself.
That's going to be a big draw right there. Just to go watch Butch work is absolutely amazing. It's definitely worth admission for just to see.
So I think that'll be fun. And then we have John Parsons with Azatrax is local, and he's going to be doing some more like in-depth signal stuff.
Oh, cool.
Signaling.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Wow, you got a lot. This isn't just a sample. You're going all the way in, Michelle. This is awesome.
So now my biggest fear is that my white tablecloth area is not full of models because my locals don't know what an RPM is.
That'll be getting the word out to bring your models and
bring your stuff. Yeah.
In whatever shape it's in or whatever finish it's in. Yeah, because that's all part of it. And I've talked about this before. I mean, I love looking at finished layouts. I like looking at finished locomotives and rolling stock, but you learn so much more from something that's half done. It's just, you get to see the process. Like, okay, this is what it looks like halfway here. Or, when a layout is half built, you can see, okay, and now I see where they're getting at or how it got to that point. So there's always something, a great takeaway from nearly every model you look at. And that's going to be great to have folks sharing that.
I liked that you just are so hyper focused on like this specific rolling stock car that I would never pay attention to in the whole trade, right? Or
Right.
this building off of a layout, and so you're actually just really diving into the weeds of the actual every small detail. Yeah, so it was hard for me to understand the concept of bringing something and setting it on a table there
Right.
and it not being like a contest or anything or bringing it half done. And so I think education of that, I've tried, but I don't know how well that's going to go this year with our locals, but they'll learn. And then next year, maybe we'll have more on the tables. We'll see. I don't know what to expect there. So.
There was only one award handed out at the New England RPM, and it was handed out to friend of the podcast, Neil Schofield.
Okay.
And it was from me because I walked by and he had his beautifully weathered stuff out, but he had left a pair of tweezers sitting next to it. I guess he had to fix a handrail. So I caught him afterwards and I said, Neil, your modeling is beautiful, but the way you shined up those tweezers, I said, the glow of the chrome on those tweezers was amazing. And by the end of the show, I wrote him a nice little thing and I said, best in show, best appearing tweezers. And I left him a nice little thing next to his tweezers. So that was the fun I had. But I guess that speaks to the camaraderie and the fun of it, to be able to have those conversations and you talked about your space, and you may have mentioned already, but I'm going to reemphasize, there's plenty of room that you have in this facility, not only for all of this, but just to go sit down, enjoy a coffee or a beverage, and have some fun conversations as well, which is just such an important part of our hobby.
I hope the people that come talk to someone they don't know. Yeah. And I'm going to walk around and challenge everybody to do that because it's me. I got to mom everybody, like, go talk to someone you don't know.
Yeah, that's right. That's good. No, and we need people like that, because I think sometimes we get in our shell. We just need to a little bit of push. And I think Mother Michelle is going to be able to do that. Go around and just give everybody a little push, and, with some barbecue and some good times of beverage, and pep them up with some coffee, and get everybody energetic. And it just, when you start bringing people out, and I've mentioned it many a times on the podcast, the hobby is so much better shared. And yes. I understand some folks, there's probably more lone wolves than we'll ever know about, but to start pulling them up out of their basements or down from the attic or out from the shed and get them out in our community, and know that it's a welcoming community, and be the person that's welcoming and get them out. It just makes the hobby that much stronger, more knowledge shared, more fun had. It's definitely an awesome thing. And it's really great that you're going to provide yet another venue for that.
Well, I hope it's fun. It's about building community, right? It's about just building that whole friendship community side of this, and meeting the people who can do this work, because we're going to need this work in our growth. We're going to need people to help us build stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And this is a great way to find those folks and get them involved at your museum or connecting.
And I'd love
to know
what they would want to see in our museum. Like when we start building rooms for modeling, what do we need to put in them? I need input from everybody, right? Yeah. If we're going to build a museum for the modeler, I need to know what it needs inside it.
It's all research, right? And that's great that you're build it and they will come, I guess, is the kind of the saying, right?
Rent a coffee shop and
hope they come, but they will come. And it's going to be an amazing thing. I've heard people talking about it already, and it's first year, and just, I think that the draw of going to Colorado for it, for folks that don't live there, is going to be a lot of fun.
I've been asked about the timing, and September is a real downtime for us, except for the last weekend. I'll never do the fourth weekend because we have a huge Oktoberfest in Greeley. Yeah. But other than that, it's downtime for events, but peak time for leaves in the mountains. So if you ever wanted to plan a Colorado vacation, you come at the end of September, early October, and the leaves turn. The higher you go, the sooner they turn. So you go way up in the mountains, they turn mid-September to late September. And then around here, they start turning in October. And so it'll always be like mid-September, or we might move it to that first weekend in October, but I don't know what else. I got to check what we would compete with. But we keep it in the fall because that's when you want to come ride trains.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So before we go here, why don't you tell us what folks will need to know and where they can find more information on the Colorado Rail Proto Meet?
Yeah, we actually have a website, if you can believe it, just for this. and
I do believe it.
hopes,
Yeah.
in my hopes, because when I started this, remember, I didn't want to do it. And so I was like, if I build a separate website, maybe another group of people could take it on and take it, make it their baby someday. And that'd be fine.
Yeah.
But it's CO, like Colorado, corpm.org.
Perfect. corpm.org. And if you don't catch that or type that in, that'll be yet another link in our show notes that you'll be able to click on.
I'm about to forget. I really need to know if you're coming for dinner. So even you can pay at the door, but if you would just send me an email and tell me you're coming, so I count you for dinner by like September 1st would be amazing.
Awesome. And then we're going to send that email to Michelle at
cmrm.org. Yep. And it's right there on the website too. There's actually a form if you want to fill it out. You can mail it. You can email it. You can call me on the phone and tell me you're coming. Just let me know. And our payment method is a little cumbersome. You just have to send us through PayPal, the $20, or you can just tell us you're coming and pay us at the door. Okay. But I need to make a dinner reservation. So you've got to tell me you're coming.
Yep. So get that message out. Go to corpm.org. Perfect. Yeah. And then you can also email Michelle at cmrm.org. Again, all those links in our show notes. We'll make sure that everything's on there for you so that you'll have all the information you need to attend the Colorado Rail Proto Meet. Michelle, it's been so awesome catching up with you and just amazed by your enthusiasm for this hobby and the things that you're willing to do for it. So thank you for that. And thanks for being on tonight.
Thanks for having me. And thanks for having this podcast to get this word out. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Around the Layout. Learn more about today's episode, check out past shows, and much more on our website, aroundthelayout.com. Show your support by becoming an operating crew member at aroundthelayout.com/crew. Follow us on social media, aroundthelayout.com/social. And send us your feedback, aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us around the layout.